In the early 1970s, the quiet neighborhoods of Wichita, Kansas seemed like the kind of place where nothing truly terrible could happen. Families lived peaceful lives. Children rode their bikes down quiet streets. People left their doors unlocked. But in January 1974, that illusion of safety was shattered. Inside a modest home in Wichita, 4 members of the same family were brutally murdered. The victims were Joseph Otero, his wife Julie Otero, and 2 of their children. The crime scene shocked investigators. The victims had been tied up, strangled, and arranged in disturbing ways. Police quickly realized this was not a robbery. This was something far darker, but the killer left almost no evidence behind. No fingerprints, no clear witnesses, no suspect. The city of Wichita was terrified. Then something even more disturbing happened. A local newspaper received a strange letter. The letter claimed responsibility for the murders. The writer described details of the crime that only the killer would know. And then he introduced himself with 3 chilling words: bind, torture, kill. The letter was signed with the initials BTK. From that moment forward, the unknown killer became known as the BTK Killer. Over the next several years, more murders followed. In 1977, a woman named Shirley VM was attacked inside her home. Her children were locked in the bathroom while the killer murdered her. A year later, another victim named Nancy Fox was strangled in her home. Once again, the killer contacted the police afterward. He wanted credit for the crime. He sent letters describing the murders in disturbing detail. He also demanded attention from the media. The BTK Killer wanted the world to know his name, but police still had no idea who he was. The killer seemed to appear and disappear without leaving any trail. Investigators studied the letters carefully. They noticed something strange. The writer seemed intelligent, organized, and obsessed with control. He carefully planned his attacks. He stalked victims for weeks or even months before striking. The killer referred to these victims as his projects. It was clear that he enjoyed the planning almost as much as the murders themselves. But then something strange happened. After the murder of Nancy Fox in 1977, the BTK Killer seemed to vanish. Years passed without another confirmed attack. Police wondered if the killer had died, moved away, or simply stopped. But the truth was far more disturbing, because the man behind the BTK murders was still living quietly in Wichita, working a job, attending church, raising a family, living what appeared to be a completely normal life, and no one suspected him. For more than a decade, the killer remained silent. Then in 1991, another murder occurred. A woman named Dolores Davis disappeared. Her body was later discovered in a rural area outside Wichita. Investigators suspected the BTK Killer had returned. But once again, there was not enough evidence to identify the attacker. And then the killer vanished again. For years, the case grew cold. Many investigators believed the BTK Killer might never be found. But they were wrong, because after nearly 30 years of silence, the killer decided to speak again. And that decision would ultimately lead to his downfall. For nearly 3 decades, the identity of the BTK Killer remained one of the biggest mysteries in American criminal history. Detectives had investigated thousands of leads, but none of them led to the man responsible. Then in 2004, something unexpected happened. A letter appeared at a Wichita newspaper. Inside was a message claiming responsibility for the old BTK murders. The killer had returned. The letter included disturbing photographs and clues connected to the crimes. Investigators immediately realized something important. The BTK Killer wanted attention again. He wanted the world to remember him. And that need for attention would become his biggest weakness. Over the next several months, the killer sent more letters and packages to the police and media. Each message contained cryptic clues and strange puzzles. Investigators began communicating with him through newspaper advertisements. They carefully responded to his messages in a way that encouraged him to keep writing. Then the killer asked a question that would seal his fate. He wanted to know if a floppy disk could be traced by police. Investigators knew exactly what he was asking. They publicly responded through a newspaper message. They told him that the disk could not be traced. But that was a lie. The BTK Killer believed them. Soon afterward, he mailed a floppy disk to investigators. When forensic experts examined the disk, they discovered hidden data. The disk had been used on a computer connected to a church in Wichita. Even more revealing was the name attached to the file. Dennis. Investigators quickly traced the information to a man named Dennis Rader. Rader was a local compliance officer and an active member of his church. He was also a husband and father with a reputation as a strict but ordinary man. But as detectives investigated further, disturbing details began to emerge. Rader had lived in Wichita during all of the BTK murders. He also had a background that matched many psychological traits investigators had suspected about the killer. Police quietly began surveillance. In February 2005, Dennis Rader was pulled over by police while driving near his home. He was arrested and taken into custody. Soon after his arrest, investigators confronted him with the evidence. At first, he tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. Eventually, Dennis Rader confessed. He calmly described each murder in disturbing detail. He admitted that he had stalked victims for weeks, sometimes months. He referred to the killings as projects, and he showed little emotion while explaining the crimes. The man who had terrorized Wichita for decades was finally exposed. In 2005, Dennis Rader pleaded guilty to 10 murders. During the court hearings, he described each crime while victims' families sat in the courtroom listening. His cold and emotionless confession shocked the nation. The BTK Killer was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences in prison. Today, Dennis Rader remains behind bars. But the case continues to disturb investigators and psychologists alike, because for more than 30 years, the BTK Killer lived an ordinary life. He attended church, he raised children, he spoke to neighbors, all while hiding the secret that he was responsible for some of the most terrifying crimes in Wichita's history. The story of BTK is a chilling reminder of something deeply unsettling. Sometimes the most dangerous monsters are not hiding in dark alleys or remote forests. Sometimes they are hiding in plain sight. If you want to explore more of the darkest criminal mysteries in history, subscribe to Hidden Zero and join us for the next investigation.